Okay. Firstly, before we start this part, I want you to know that INC is not a product which can only be used in SOE 3.0. Okay, because the reason why we introduce it because it's very important. Right, at least you should know how to use it. Right, or at least you should know the function of it. Right, so we will quickly go through this slide, make you have a basic understanding of INC of this product. Okay, we will not spend a lot of time to introduce the very detailed information. Okay, and I think when you use it, you will have enough time to try to use it, to understand it. Okay, about INC, firstly, let's see some functions of it. The first function is zero-touch provisioning. From this name, I think you are very interested. Okay, zero-touch provisioning means if we use it, even we don't need to configure the devices anymore, right? It can reduce the workload of us. Let's see if it's like what you think. Plug-and-play deployment of SOE switches. The INC identifies SOE switches automatically to enable them to work immediately after being connected to the network. The hardware installation, software commissioning can be performed at a random sequence. You can see in this figure here, here is a process of the traditional network deployment. Firstly, we should use a configuration script to import configuration to the switches and bring the switches to the respective rooms, connect the switches with cables and power on them. At last, if the configuration errors are found, and after the installation, engineers should take a PC to the device, to the site, and modify the configuration to analyze the configuration and find out the faults. But if we use INC, the process is different, you can see. Now, in this figure, firstly, if you use INC, firstly, bring the switches to the rooms, connect the switches with fibers and power on. Switches will register load configuration automatically. Means you don't need to configure the devices one by one anymore. They will register. Register to what? So register to what? To the INC. Once the device is turned on, it will register to the INC, means it says that, okay, I am one of the switches in the network. What I want to get is the configuration. Okay, so with the configuration template defined on the INC, installation personnel only need to bring the switches to the site, connect, and power on. Provisioning process is completed only in 3 steps. It can reduce the workload, right? This is called zero-touch provisioning. And next is about the 2 workflows and 5 deployment methods. 2 workflows means first the workflow is that configuration template can be created first, or the device installation can be done first, because they are insulated. What we should do, firstly, we should have what we need is first is the configuration template. Next is the a running device, right? So if we have the template, we have the running device. So the INC can deliver the templates to the running devices. 2 workflows means you can set the template first, or you can install the device first. Okay, this is for 2 workflows. And next is the configuration templates can be bound to devices in 5 ways. 5 ways means now what we want to do is to deliver the configuration to the device. But in the network, we have different types of devices. For example, now This is a template. We use T to represent. This is a template. And the INC should deliver the template to the switches. For example, this is a switch. This is another switch. But this is the core switch. This is the access switch. If the INC deliver the configuration, same configuration template to both of them, actually, it must be wrong, because it's impossible for the access switch to have the same configuration as the core switch. So in this case, how does INC distinguish them? How does INC knows? Now I have, for example, let's clear this. For example, this is template 1. This is template 2. Okay, template 1 is for the core switch. Template 2 is for the access switch. So how does the INC distinguish the switch is a core switch or access switch? We should cure it. As a network engineer, you should cure the INC that which is core switch, which is access switch. How do we cure it? Here comes the method. You can see based on sequence number. Based on sequence number, for example, we can deliver the template one by one. For example, sequence number 1111, deliver template 1. Sequence number 2222, deliver template 2. This is called single. Or batch. Batch means we can upload the Excel. And this Excel is the bond with between the sequence number and the template. Okay, so we have, this is a first method, second method, or based on aggregation switch, aggregation port. This is 3, 4. For some cases, if the aggregation switch, because we all know that the aggregation switch, this is the aggregation, AGG. And firstly, it's connected with the core switch. This is a core. And downstream are some access switches, ACC. If all these access switches can use the same template, so we can use the aggregation switch method. We just need to find the IP address of the aggregation switch with the template. So all the downstream access switches can receive the same configuration template. Okay, aggregation port is similar. And the last method is global binding of a default template. Means all the devices will have the same template, but it can only allow all the devices to communicate with each other. It's not related to the services. Okay, so this is 5. All the devices will get a basic configuration template, allow all these devices to communicate with each other, while no services inside, no different VLANs inside, no relationship with your service in your network. Okay, so we have 2 workflows, 5 deployment methods. Okay, and the next, let's see. Here are the operations on INC. Let's quickly go. You can just see the figure here. Let's see this deployment, switch deployment. You can see first the assigning management segments. You can, for example, bind in bulk or single binding. Binding in bulk means as we said, you can upload the Excel. Single binding means binding one by one. Okay, and the next is about, since we have bind, so we should deliver the templates to the devices. So how can we get the templates? You can see here at except the batch, single, here is the sorry for that. Okay, here it is. We can use the aggregation and aggregation switch, aggregate port to bind with the templates. Right? And next is to configure you can see the second step, create a configuration template, and the templates will be delivered to the devices, to the bound devices. Okay, and next, let's see the device replacement. Firstly, you should know in which case we should replace device. We should replace device only when the device is faulty, right? Or when the device is, for example, the number of the device port is not enough. So we should replace the device. And let's see the solution of replace device before. Now, here it says that now a device is found faulty, so we should replace it. And we should manually load the backup configuration to a new device. If no backup one, we should configure it manually. And then mount the new switch on rack and power it on. Then connect the cables. This is the process of the traditional device replacement. But with INC, let's see what's the process. Firstly, the device failed. Then we just replace switch. We just disconnect the switch and reconnect a new switch. Then connect the cables. In this case, INC can automatically detect that, okay, the switch has been replaced and I should deliver the configuration to the new switch. Okay, this is called smart replacement. A fault switch can be replaced directly with a new switch to resume service quickly. And even random cable connection is supported. Random cable connection means that, for example, for the access switch, now it's connected with PC, with some access control system, with the AP, with a camera. If it's faulty, we should replace with a new one. But it's impossible for us, or it's very hard for us to remember that the PC is connected with port 2. The AP is connected with port 6. And actually, you don't need to remember. You can randomly connect the devices to any ports. And then by INC, it can detect. Okay, it can detect the PC used to connect with port 1, and now it's connected with, maybe this is port 8. So INC can automatically find out and can deliver the port of port 1, the configuration of port 1 to port 8 in the new switch. Okay, you can see it's very smart and very convenient. This is this device replacement. Okay, and the next is a configuration rollback. Configuration rollback is that if a switch is disconnected due to misoperation, its configuration can be automatically rolled back to the version that allows for communication. If a switch cannot communicate with the other devices after moving to a new location, it backs up its configuration automatically and restarts. If the device restarts, it will trigger the plug and play or zero-touch provisioning, right? So this is very, very smart and convenient. Okay, next is about the admission control. Admission control means to control the access of terminals. For example, the PCs, the indoor APs, the phones, printers, and so on. SOE solution provides the admission control feature to ensure information security, compliance with applicable laws and the regulations. Terminals must be authenticated before they can connect to a network. And the advantage of use is more secure. And after the admission control is enabled on a VLAN or switch, terminals connected to the VLAN or switch need to gain approval for network access, can make it more secure. Okay, and SOE switches support access control escape. after reboot, SF, pay attention here, this device, SF2920U switch cannot load information about the terminals that have been approved before the reboot. Access control escape can solve this problem. Because it can, in other words, it's very smart, and we just need to upload, or we just need to deliver the former entries to the new device. It will work, right? Okay, and the next is the optical link OM. This is about operation and maintenance, okay? And since the INC can configure the network, so it have a very deep and detailed understanding of the whole network, so it can maintain the network. SOE solution supports link diagnosis. Administrator can check alarm messages or start optical link diagnosis and check diagnosis result on the diagnose page. Okay, SOE switches have a new optical link port indicator and the mobile OM QR code. The indicator can be in red, green, yellow to help you locate the optical link video. Okay, you can check, for example, if it's red or if it's yellow, if it's green, what's the meaning? Right? Or if it's uncertain, you can check. This is a kind of alarm. Actually, it's for troubleshooting suggestions. Based on the suggestions, it can help you quickly locate the fault and recover the network. Okay, and based on the colors, you can see, based on the color of the indicators, you can know the running status of the links in the network. Go to the optical link detection, you would see a page like this, and eliminate potential risks on optical links during the transmission from network deployment to OM, and monitor the health of the optical link during the routine maintenance. So it's INC is firstly it's a controller, and at the same time it's a network management system. Can monitor the running status of the whole network and can show you some alarms, and even can give you some troubleshooting suggestions. Right? It's very, very powerful. Okay, and after knowing these functions, next let's see the deployment. First is the solution design. Of course, this is not SOE 3.0. This is SOE 2.1. So we just quickly go through it. It's not the main point of this course. Based on the network architecture, we should connect the cables, and we should configure the templates on the INC floor, right? And the deployment have different methods. First, you can see, it's called large layer 2 deployment. Large layer 2 means the controller and the devices are in the same layer 2 network, in the same broadcast domain. And layer 3 deployment is also very easy to understand. This is a gateway, and the devices at INC are in different subnets. So there should be some rules here. There should be routes on the core devices to allow the communication between INC controller and the devices. Except that we have flatted network deployment and the Q-in-Q deployment. These two methods are supported but not commonly used. What you should know is the first two types, layer 2 and layer 3 deployment. Okay, and next, let's see. To deploy the solution, here is the reference configuration of IP address, VLANs, and areas. It's just a kind of reference. You should design your subnets based on your network. Okay, set two management network segments. First is the initial network segment, or this is called initial management network segment. It's used to assign the management IP address for the devices to manage the device. Okay, while custom management network segments is used to set the IP address of your service terminals, for example, cameras, for example, printers, for example, end users, smart devices, the mobile, the laptop, and so on. Okay. This is different. And you should plan, for example, for different services, for different departments, you should design the VLAN they belong to, the subnet they use, right? The areas of them, and the position of them, and so on. It's very complex, okay? And here's the result. Here's just an example, okay? About the areas. The area could be teaching building 1, teaching building 2, office building 1, and each building can be divided into first layer, first floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor, and each floor have different rooms, right? Okay. And then establishing the basic network environment. It means this is a large layer 2 deployment, which to connect the cables, and this is a layer 2 deployment. So the INC and the devices are in the same subnet. So let's see the configurations. The configurations is important. Let's see this. Enable downlink interface. Here, about the core switch here, the downlink interface is here, is 10 gigabit Ethernet 113, right? Interface 10 gigabit Ethernet 113. Then switch port mode trunk. Pay attention here. This port should be trunk port. This link must be trunk link. Okay. And then for this port, which is connected with INC on the core switch, you can see no switch port. This is a layer 3. This is a layer 3 port, and you can configure IP address for it. Okay. And next, configure gateway address. Gateway address interface VLAN 1 and interface VLAN X. It's not fixed. Okay. You can use VLAN 1, you can use VLAN 10, you can use VLAN maybe 33, 54. It depends on you. Okay, it depends on you. But the configuration process should be like this. Create the SVI, configure the IP address. Create the SVI, configure the IP address. And of course, when you configure the IP address, you must think about the IP address planning of the whole network. And next is about the DHCP, service DHCP. And since it's a layer 3 network, layer 3, so the INC is a DHCP server. So on this switch, we must enable IP Hilbert address. This is the DHCP relay. Okay, the core switch is the DHCP relay agent. And after enabling DHCP and DHCP relay, since DHCP itself is not a secure protocol, so we should enable DHCP snooping, right? And the DHCP snooping trust interface configuration. Okay. The interface on the core switch, which is connected with the INC. This port is the trust DHCP snooping trust port. Okay, and for the aggregation switch, let's see the configuration. Interface 048. This is upstream device, switch mode trunk. 01, switch mode trunk. And while the native VLAN is VLAN 1. Okay, native VLAN is VLAN 1. And if you use other VLANs, you can set it to be VLAN 2, VLAN 3, VLAN 4. The VLAN ID here is the management VLAN. And you should also enable the DHCP snooping. Except the DHCP snooping, pay attention here. RLDP enable. We must enable RLDP here. Because RLDP is a very important protocol here that can be used to prevent the loops, at the access layer. Okay, enable RLDP. It's very, very important. And the detect operation is shutdown port. Means once we detect the loop at the access layer, we will shut down the port to block the loop. Okay, and at last, for the access switches, make a deployment plan covering the locations, quantity, models of access switches, collect SNs because we should register, we should bind the sequence number of the switches to the template, often the IP address, SMP version, SMP community, Telnet password, or SSH password. So in this way, INC can deliver configuration templates to these devices and connect the switch to the aggregation switch and power them on. Once power on, they will get the template from the INC, and this is for zero-touch provisioning. Right? After the preceding operations are completed, basic network environment is established, and the INC, core switch, aggregation switch, access switches can communicate properly right now. Okay, this is the whole process of establishing basic network environments. Okay, I think it's very important for you to know the process, but the very detailed commands, operation on INCs are not very necessary for you to remember each command. Okay, you just need to know what I should do here. And when you deploy the real project, you should know what to do. You should know the process. Then you can check the materials for the commands, for the operations of INC. It's very hard for us to remember each detailed information in these 3 hours, right? Okay, and next, let's see some operations on INC. Okay, let's quickly go through it. And now this is the home page of the INC. At this page, you can see the alarms. You can see the status of the equipments, for example, of the switches, of the APs, of the ACs. You can see the client monitoring, the online clients. The clients could be weird and weirdest clients. If you click the number, you can also see the detailed information of them. At last, you can see the topology. Okay, and zero-touch provisioning operation is shown here. Right? Deployment, switch deployment, click auto provisioning solution. Once you click it, you will see a page on the right. You will see the page on the right. And see, first, assign management segment. This is the first step. Must do for the first time. Of course, if you have already got the management segments, it's not necessary. And create a configuration template, find the configuration template with the sequence numbers is the second step. And the next, if you want to assign the network segment, just fill in the IP address, the segment exclusion addresses in this field, okay? And click add. But pay attention here. Unable to ping the gateway with IP address means if the gateway IP address you have set is not available, this state will not be succeed. Okay. And then automatic switch static management network segments and VLAN means if it's supported to fix, right? After completing preceding configuration, save the configurations and proceed to the next step. When you check the next step, let's see what's this. Here is about the configuration template. Since the configuration template is different based on different networks, so we will not introduce it in detail, but what you should know is that if you use the INC, to support zero-touch provisioning, I think most of you will think that, okay, it's very simplified. I don't need to configure the devices one by one anymore. But it's not that simplified because you should design everything in advance. You should design the IP segment in advance. You should design the VLANs in advance. Even you should design the configuration of each port in advance, right? So planning is very, very important when you use the zero-touch provisioning supported by INC. Okay. You can see here are the configuration of each port, or if you want to set the global configuration, just here's global, to enable some, for example, SFP, transceiver alarm detection, enable some of the functions, some of the global functions. Okay. And next, find the configuration template. If you want to bind, you can use the single bind. You can see single bind, enter the sequence number, enter the template you have created. So you have binded the sequence number with the template. Once we receive a request from the switch with a specific sequence number, I will check the binding and find the related template, send the template to the device. Okay. This is a working principle of zero-touch provisioning. It's easier for you to understand, I think. If you use the aggregation binding, you can choose the aggregation switch or aggregation port, but there are some precautions, some requirements. If you use the aggregation switch binding, all the downstream switches must use the CM configuration. For the aggregation port is the CM. If you use the aggregation port binding, all the ports should use the CM configuration. Okay. Or here is another method to use the global binding. As we said, that global binding can only be used when you only want to configure all the devices with the same configuration. In this way, you can allow the communication between them while there's no relationship to the services in the network. It's just the basic communication. Okay, all the devices will have the same configuration. Okay. And the next is about the operation and maintenance. You can see here, this is OM and the device replacement. If there is a device should be replaced, you should use this function. And click settings, you could enable automatic change and the network cable bind plug. Okay, and it's quite easy. Just enable these two functions. It will support automatic device replacement. Okay. Since we have already introduced the device replacement in the former pages, we have introduced it in according to a figure, I think, right? So here is the content similar to what we have introduced. So we will not introduce it in detail anymore. We can just go through it. Replacement switch builds into any of the following types. For example, a new switch have not undergone zero-touch provisioning, start the replacement directly. For a switch that has undergone zero-touch provisioning, if the management IP of the switch is reachable to the INC server, start the replacement directly. While if the management IP of the switch is unreachable, you should delete the configuration and perform the zero-touch provisioning again. While if there is a switch have already been configured, but it cannot work properly, so you should delete the configuration and restart it. Okay. Then the number of ports on the replacement switch may be different from that on the old switch. For example, if the old switch have, for example, have 4 ports, while the new one have 8 ports. So for the new switch, it will get the configuration of the 4 ports. The other 4 ports will use the default configuration. While if the new switch or new device have less number of ports, for example, we used to have 8 ports. Each port have a configuration. But for the new switch, we only have 4 ports. So the 4 ports will use the configuration of the 4 ports on the former device, or the older device. Okay. And the next is about the terminal access control policy. Click policy and lightweight control, you can access the management policy. Okay, you can create a new control policy here. And after clicking the new control policy, you are configuring a policy. For example, here, the port type is access, VLAN is 12, WX mode is do not change, and here are some advanced settings. You can limit that this port actually 7, 8, 9, 10 belongs to 12, VLAN 12. Or here, create a policy means, for example, VLAN 10, VLAN 12 have static IP address. The business name should be filled in. And of course, you can set some settings. Here are the policies which can be used to limit the access of terminals of end users. Okay. And the next, configuring manual access approval. Manual access approval means if some of the devices, even they cannot match the policy, but they should access the network. We call it whitelist, actually. Whitelist. You should enter the MAC address of the terminal. Once you add the MAC address of the terminal into whitelist, it will not be blocked or it will not be affected by the policies we have created. Okay, it's very useful. Okay, and next is the diagnose. Diagnose is a very important function of the operation and the maintenance. Okay, interface and click diagnose. You can enter this page. And you can see, this is a page we have already seen. You could see the some troubleshooting suggestions if there is a fault course. For example, please check if the indicator is selected incorrectly, or please check if the indicator is selected incorrectly. Here are some functions for the operation and maintenance. And next is link detection, optical link detection. It's in the OM. You can see OM and the optical link detection. You can select some or devices to check their optical links or set a periodic link detection task. So in this way, for example, if you set a periodic link detection task, INC will automatically detect the link periodically, and you can see the feedback, so you can monitor the network on time, right? You can monitor the running status. Okay, and the next is the device upgrade. Device upgrade is the is a common function of most of the network management systems that we can upgrade the devices. It's not complex, so we will not introduce it in detail. And the next is the configuration backup and the restoration. So we can back up the configuration files. Once the device is restarted or replaced, this kind of configurations will be delivered to the switches to help recover the network. Okay. This is also one of the operation maintenance functions. And next is the network connectivity monitoring. From the name we know, it's used to monitor the network connectivity of the network. And the next, device performance monitoring. Monitor for example, the CPU usage, the memory usage of the devices in the network. Right? You can set some monitoring sessions. Okay, and the next is alarm. Alarm notification email is a common function. Once an urgent alarm occurred in the network, the system will send you an email. You will receive an email, and it's a notification. So you can operate or you can handle these issues on time. And next is a configuration delivery. It can be found in OM and device count. You can see here are the configurations, and you can click the button here to deliver the configurations. Okay, and this is about the introduction of INC. About INC, we have introduced the functions or the key functions of it, and how to use it to build a network, and how does it work to configure, to maintain, and to support the, for example, device replacement. Okay, I think after introducing these, you will have a basic understanding of INC, and you will have a basic operation skill of INC. But I think you are still a little confused, because INC is a software. Okay, INC is a software. Where do we install it? How do we install it? Okay, this is problems we didn't mention. But I think you should, if you are going to do the project delivery, you are going to use INC to build a network, you must know that. And it can also be you can find some user manuals or guidance manuals on our web page. Okay, so if you need, you can go to Ruijie official web page to get these documents, these manuals. It helps a lot actually. Okay, because this kind of software or system installation are very, very detailed content. So this is the reason we didn't mention it. Okay, here comes a problem. Here comes a question. Can INC be deployed on cloud or only on premise? How can I see? At least until now, I didn't met that the INC deployed on cloud. Okay. But I think it can be installed on cloud, because the requirement of installing an INC is that it should be installed in no matter a KVM or VMware simulator, right? Virtual machine, and then on this virtual machine we should install an Ubuntu, okay, Ubuntu, and on Ubuntu we install INC. This is just the installation requirement of INC. So on the cloud, it's similar. You just need to install the operating system and install INC on that operating system. Okay, I think until now we have finished the content I want to share with you. But here I want to know, is there anything you want to share with us, or is there any contents that you are interested in?